Forget paradise. Beyond these shorelines lie secrets soaked in blood. We've unearthed terrifying evidence of things that shouldn't exist, shadows that breathe, and screams that never end. These are the 15 most haunted islands on Earth. Stay alert, because on these shores, you are never truly alone. 1. Poveglia Island, Venice, Italy. Located in the Venetian lagoon between Venice and Lido. This small island first appears in historical records in 421 as a refuge for people fleeing barbaric invasions. For centuries, it thrived as a small community until the War of Chioggia in 1379 forced the inhabitants to evacuate the area. Its darker legacy began in 1776 when the land was placed under the jurisdiction of the Magistrato alla Sanità, eventually becoming a permanent lazaretto for plague victims and travelers suspected of carrying disease. By the early 20th century, the existing structures were repurposed, and in 1922, a long-term care facility for the mentally ill was opened. This hospital remained operational until its closure in 1968, leaving behind a crumbling complex of buildings that have since been reclaimed by nature and decay. The island's reputation is deeply rooted in the mass suffering of those quarantined during the Black Death. Local lore suggests that over 160 people died here, their remains buried in mass pits or burned to prevent the spread of infection. The most infamous legend centers on the psychiatric hospital's chief administrator. It is claimed that a sadistic doctor performed horrific experiments on patients before losing his own sanity. According to folklore, he was driven to despair by the ghosts of his victims and eventually plummeted to his death from the hospital's bell tower. Local fishermen have long avoided the surrounding waters, fearing that their nets might drag up the scorched bones of the many thousands who perished on these isolated shores. Paranormal investigators describe a heavy, oppressive atmosphere that permeates the island's ruins. Reported anomalies include sudden, drastic temperature drops and the sound of disembodied wails echoing through the hollowed-out wards. Many witnesses claim to have seen dark, shadow-like figures darting between the overgrown corridors of the main hospital building. There are recurring accounts of electronic voice phenomena where voices seem to whisper warnings in Italian, telling intruders to leave. Physical sensations, such as being watched or touched by unseen hands, are frequently documented by those who have dared to step onto the ash-laden soil. The sheer volume of tragedy associated with the site has solidified its status as one of the most active locations for unexplained phenomena. Today, the island remains strictly off-limits to the general public, guarded by the Italian government, although a private businessman attempted to lease the land for redevelopment in 2014. The project stalled, leaving the site in a state of suspended animation. The bell tower still stands as a silent sentinel over the decaying asylum and the hidden plague pits. Two, Hashima Island, Nagasaki, Japan. Rising abruptly from the East China Sea, about 15 kilometers from Nagasaki, Japan, lies a desolate concrete fortress known as Gunkanjima, or Battleship Island. Originally a small reef, the island was significantly expanded through land reclamation after Mitsubishi Corporation purchased it in 1890 to tap into undersea coal deposits. By the mid-20th century, it became the most densely populated place on Earth, packed with high-rise reinforced concrete apartment blocks to support thousands of miners. However, the site's history is darkened by its role during World War II, when conscripted Korean and Chinese laborers were forced to work under brutal, often lethal conditions in the deep undersea shafts. When the coal ran out in 1974, the island was abruptly abandoned, leaving an entire city to decay. The legends surrounding this crumbling megalopolis are rooted in the immense suffering of those who perished within its borders. While no specific named ghosts dominate the folklore, the collective memory of the thousands who died from exhaustion, malnutrition, and mining accidents fuels the belief that the island is inhabited by Yurei, unsettled Japanese spirits. Local lore suggests that the souls of the forced laborers remain trapped in the labyrinthine tunnels and staircases, unable to find peace after enduring such inhumane treatment. The island is often described as a massive, silent tomb where the heavy weight of the past still lingers in the salt-stained air, manifesting as an oppressive energy that visitors claim to feel the moment they step onto the decaying concrete. Investigators and urban explorers who have braved the restricted ruins report a chilling array of unexplained phenomena. Many claim to hear the rhythmic, metallic clanging of mining tools echoing from deep within the flooded shafts. Despite the machinery having been silent for decades, disembodied whispers are often heard drifting through the stairway to hell, a steep climb leading to the island's temple. Visitors frequently describe sudden, localized temperature drops and the unsettling sensation of being watched by unseen eyes from the dark windows of the abandoned apartments. Others have captured photographs of shadow figures moving behind the glass or standing on rooftops, disappearing as soon as they are directly observed. These anomalies create a visceral sense of a city that refuses to be truly empty. Today, this haunting relic stands as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, recognized for its industrial significance while remaining a somber monument to a complex past. While small portions are open to organized tours, much of the island remains off-limits due to the extreme structural instability of its crumbling buildings. Three, Isla de las Muñecas, Island of the Dolls, Xochimilco, Mexico. Located within the ancient canal system of Xochimilco, south of Mexico City, lies a chinampa with a history as dark as the murky waters surrounding it. While the canals date back to the Aztec era, the modern legacy of this artificial island began in the mid-20th century. Don Julián Santana Barrera, a local man who chose isolation as a hermit, moved there during the 1950s. His solitary existence took a haunting turn when he allegedly discovered the body of a young girl drowned in the canal. Seeking to appease her spirit, he found a doll floating nearby and hung it from a tree, beginning a ritual that would span 50 years. The core folklore revolves around Santana Barrera's obsession and his relationship with the afterlife. He believed the girl's spirit haunted the island, and the dolls served as talismans to soothe her soul. He scavenged thousands of discarded toys from the canals, hanging them from every branch. The legend took a chilling turn in 2001 when Santana Barrera was found dead, drowned in the exact same location where he claimed to have found the girl decades earlier. Locals believe his death was the final act of the spirits he spent a lifetime trying to placate, leaving the island forever tethered to his tragic story. Investigators describe the site as one of the most oppressive locations on Earth. Witnesses report seeing the dolls' heads turning independently or eyes opening to track movement. Visitors swear they have heard faint whispers echoing through the trees or felt sudden temperature drops near the decaying figures. The atmosphere is heavy with the sensation of being watched by thousands of glassy eyes. While skeptics point to the wind, the volume of reports regarding shadows moving between the trees and phantom footsteps suggests something sinister resides within this floating garden. Today, the site is a macabre tourist destination accessible only by a long boat journey through the winding Xochimilco canals. Now managed by Santana Barrera's family, the island remains in a state of grotesque decomposition. It serves as a haunting reminder of the power of obsession and superstition as the dolls rot under the Mexican sun. The island persists as a bridge to the unexplained, drawing in those brave enough to face the silent judgment of its thousands of plastic inhabitants. Four, Alcatraz Island, San Francisco, California, USA. Sitting just over a mile offshore in the San Francisco Bay, California. This 12-acre sandstone outcrop has served many grim masters since its discovery in 1775. Originally home to the West Coast's first lighthouse in 1854, the island's strategic position led to its fortification as a Civil War citadel and a military prison. Its most notorious era began in 1934 when the Department of Justice repurposed it as a maximum security federal penitentiary. For 29 years, it housed the nation's most incorrigible criminals, including Al Capone and Robert Stroud, serving as an inescapable tomb of concrete until its 1963 closure due to high operating cost and structural deterioration. Legends surrounding the rock predate its carceral history. Local indigenous tribes believe the island was inhabited by malevolent spirits and used it as a place of exile. During its time as a federal prison, supernatural reports became common among inmates and guards. One persistent legend involves Al Capone, who purportedly played a banjo in the shower room to avoid the recreation yard's violence. To this day, phantom banjo music is said to echo through the empty stalls. Others speak of a shadowy figure with glowing red eyes that terrorized an inmate in solitary confinement, Block D. A man found dead the morning after his ignored screams. Investigators and National Park Service rangers have documented numerous unexplained phenomena within the decaying cell blocks. Visitors frequently report sudden temperature drops and the oppressive feeling of being watched in the Michigan Avenue corridor. In the laundry room and mess hall, sounds of clanging metal and phantom footsteps have been captured on recordings, despite the buildings being empty. The most chilling accounts come from Cell Block D, specifically Cell 14D, where the air remains perpetually cold and a sense of profound grief overwhelms those who enter, suggesting the psychic residue of harsh punishments remains etched into the stone. Today, the island is a National Park Service monument and major tourist destination. While the lighthouse still flashes across the dark waters, the silence of the abandoned cell house is deceptive. As the Pacific fog rolls in, shrouding the ruins in a gray veil, the boundary between the past and present thins. Whether these events are intelligent hauntings or residual energy, the island remains a somber reminder of isolation. It is no longer a place of active incarceration, yet for the spirits rumored to still pace its corridors, the sentence of the rock may never truly end. Five, Oak Island, Nova Scotia, Canada. Located off the coast of Lunenburg County in Nova Scotia, Canada. This small island has baffled historians and treasure hunters since 1795. That year, a young man named Daniel McGinnis discovered a strange depression in the ground beneath an old oak tree, sparking one of the longest-running treasure hunts in history. The site, famously known as the Money Pit, was originally believed to house immense wealth, leading to the construction of elaborate shafts and the discovery of sophisticated flood tunnels lined with coconut fiber. For over 2 centuries, various syndicates, including the Onslow and Truro companies, have poured fortunes into the soil, uncovering strange stone inscriptions and wooden platforms every 10 feet. Yet the original purpose of the site remains a historical enigma. The lore surrounding these woods is steeped in a dark, persistent prophecy claiming that 7 people must die before the secret of the island is finally revealed. To date, 6 lives have been lost in various accidents, ranging from boiler explosions to toxic gas exposure, fueling the belief that a malevolent force guards the hidden cache. Local legends suggest the treasure belongs to infamous pirates like Captain Kidd, or may even contain the lost jewels of Marie Antoinette or Knights Templar artifacts. While no specific spirits are named in official records, folklore often speaks of spectral guardians tasked with protecting the pit, and many believe the island itself is cursed by those who engineered its deadly traps. Investigators and laborers have frequently reported unsettling anomalies that suggest the island is more than just a burial ground for gold. Many claim to have witnessed flickering ghost lights dancing across Smith's Cove, or heard the disembodied sound of digging echoing from the abandoned shafts during the dead of night. There are numerous accounts of sudden, localized temperature drops near the money pit and a pervasive feeling of being watched by unseen eyes from the dense tree line. Some modern searchers have even reported shadows moving independently of any light source, suggesting that the energy of those who perished during the hunt remains tethered to the very excavations that claimed their lives. Today, the island remains a site of intense scrutiny, largely under the stewardship of the Michigan Group and popularized by modern media. Despite the application of advanced seismic technology and deep core drilling, the Earth refuses to yield its final secrets, maintaining an atmosphere of heavy, somber mystery. It stands as a testament to human obsession, where the line between historical archaeology and the supernatural continues to blur. Six, Ilha da Queimada Grande, Snake Island, São Paulo, Brazil. Approximately 20 miles off the coast of São Paulo, Brazil, lies a rugged piece of land that serves as a living relic of the Pleistocene epoch, separated from the mainland roughly 11.0 years ago by rising sea levels. This 106-acre island is characterized by rocky terrain and dense rainforest. Its name, Island of the Great Burn, originates from a failed attempt by locals to clear vegetation for a banana plantation using fire. In 1909, a lighthouse was constructed here to guide vessels through treacherous Atlantic waters, marking the only human footprint on this isolated rock. The core folklore is inextricably linked to its most lethal inhabitants, the Golden Lance-head vipers. Local legend suggests these pit vipers were intentionally placed there by pirates to protect a vast, hidden hoard of stolen gold. The most chilling documented tale involves the final human inhabitants, a lighthouse keeper, his wife, and 3 children. Local lore recounts a night when snakes slithered through a window, forcing the family to flee toward their boat, only to be overtaken by the serpents in the darkness. Another story tells of a lone fisherman who landed to gather fruit, only to be found days later, lifeless. Paranormal investigators and authorized researchers describe an overwhelming sense of dread that permeates the interior. While physical evidence of the supernatural is elusive, reports of anomalous atmospheric effects are common. Witnesses describe a heavy, predatory silence where the usual sounds of nature are replaced by the unsettling rustle of scales against dry leaves. The abandoned original keeper's cottage is a focal point for this tension. Visitors report the crushing feeling of being watched by unseen eyes from the canopy. These sensations are often accompanied by sudden drops in temperature and an inexplicable urge to flee the dense thicket, even when no snakes are immediately visible. Today, the island is strictly off-limits, serving as a biological reserve and an area of relevant ecological interest. The Brazilian Navy maintains the automated lighthouse and enforces the ban to protect both the endangered viper population and human lives. With a density of up to 1 snake per square meter, the site remains one of the world's most dangerous environments. It stands as a silent, green fortress where history, biology, and legend intersect, forever guarded by a species found nowhere else on Earth. Seven, Easter Island, Rapa Nui, Valparaíso region, Chile. Located over 2,000 miles off the Chilean coast in the southeastern Pacific Ocean, this volcanic island is one of Earth's most remote inhabited places. Known as Rapa Nui, it was settled by Polynesian voyagers between 700 and 1100 AD. These settlers established a complex society that peaked between 1100 and 1650 AD with the carving of the Moai. These monolithic human figures, shaped from volcanic tooth at Rano Raraku, were transported across the island to rest on stone platforms called ahu. These statues were intended to represent the living faces of deified ancestors, acting as spiritual conduits between the physical and supernatural worlds while protecting the clans with their silent gaze. The island's spiritual identity centers on the concept of mana, a sacred supernatural power believed to inhabit the Moai and their creators. Local folklore speaks of the aku-aku, invisible guardian spirits or ghosts that inhabit the caves and sacred sites of the island. These entities are often described as gaunt, skeletal beings that strictly enforce the tapu, or sacred laws, of the land. Oral traditions suggest that while some aku-aku were benevolent protectors of specific families, others were vengeful spirits that punished those who desecrated the stone monuments. Later, the Tangata Manu, or Birdman cult, emerged at the ceremonial village of Orongo, shifting the island's focus toward a ritualistic competition for divine favor. Visitors and researchers often report an unsettling sense of being watched while traversing the desolate volcanic slopes. In the silence of the Rano Raraku Quarry, where hundreds of unfinished statues remain frozen in time, investigators have documented unexplained temperature drops and the sound of rhythmic chanting echoing from the stone cliffs. Witnesses describe seeing flickering shadows moving between the upright moai at dusk, while others claim to hear the faint scratching of stone on stone, as if the ancient carvers are still active. These anomalies are frequently attributed to the lingering presence of the ancestors. Electronic equipment often malfunctions near the largest AHU, which locals believe is caused by the concentration of residual mana. Today, this UNESCO World Heritage Site remains a protected territory under Chilean administration within the Valparaiso region. It stands as a monumental testament to human resilience and ambition in total isolation. Despite the influx of modern tourism, the atmosphere remains thick with the weight of centuries of history. The Moai continue to stand as silent sentinels, their deep-set eyes staring across a landscape that witnessed the rise and fall of a unique civilization. Eight, North Brother Island, New York City. New York, OS 8, tucked away in the East River between the Bronx and Rikers Island. North Brother Island served as a grim fortress of isolation for New York City. Established in 1885, the location became the home of Riverside Hospital, a facility constructed to quarantine individuals suffering from contagious diseases like smallpox and typhus. For decades, the island represented the thin line between public safety and the reality of medical exile. The hospital complex eventually included a specialized tuberculosis pavilion and staff housing, creating a self-contained world where the afflicted lived in forced separation. It remains a stark monument to the city's dark history of public health and the lengths taken to contain the invisible threats of the 19th century. The location's most infamous resident was Mary Mallon, known as Typhoid Mary, who was forcibly quarantined here for nearly 30 years until her death in 1938. The island's legacy of tragedy was further cemented in 1904 during the General Slocum steamship disaster. As the burning vessel drifted near the shore, over 1,000 people perished, and many victims washed up on the island's banks. This dual history of infectious disease and mass casualty has birthed local folklore centered on the restless spirits of those who died in solitude or met a violent, watery end just feet from the safety of the shore. Modern accounts from authorized visitors describe a heavy, suffocating atmosphere permeating the decaying ruins. Reported paranormal activity includes the sound of phantom footsteps echoing through the skeletal remains of the tuberculosis ward and sudden temperature drops near the site of Mary Mallon's former cottage. Witnesses have claimed to see shadowy figures darting through the invasive vines that choke the brick facades, while others report hearing disjointed sounds of a crowd screaming a chilling auditory echo attributed to the 1904 tragedy. These anomalies are often accompanied by an overwhelming sense of being watched from the hollow window frames of the abandoned morgue. Today, the site is a restricted migratory bird sanctuary, strictly closed to the public and reclaimed by an aggressive canopy of trees. The brick structures are rapidly collapsing, creating a landscape where nature is slowly erasing the scars of human suffering. It stands as a forbidden zone, a silent witness to New York's past that remains visible from the shoreline but legally unreachable. The island persists as a haunting reminder of a time when the only cure for fear was total banishment. Its secrets guarded by the city and the herons that now inhabit the ruins. Nine. Dead Man's Island, Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada. Tucked away in the serene northwest arm of Halifax, Nova Scotia, lies a small peninsula that conceals a grim chapter of history. This site, now a peaceful park, served a much darker purpose during the Napoleonic Wars and the War of 1812. It became a final resting place for hundreds of prisoners of war held at the nearby Melville Island prison. Men from France, Spain, and the United States, captured at sea and succumbing to infectious diseases, were rowed across the water to be interred in shallow, unmarked graves. Over 400 souls remain beneath the soil, including American soldiers whose identities were forgotten until the site was officially protected. The folklore surrounding this coastal landscape is rooted in the tragedy of anonymous spirits. Local legend speaks of the restless hundreds, foreign captives who died far from their homelands. These men, victims of typhus, were buried without ceremony. For generations, residents shared stories of how shifting tides and erosion would reveal skeletal remains, reinforcing the notion that those buried here have never found peace. The weight of history is palpable, as the site also served as a burial ground for Irish immigrants fleeing the Great Famine, adding layers of sorrow to the ground beneath the walking trails. Paranormal investigators frequently report anomalies suggesting the past remains present. Accounts describe sudden, localized temperature drops and an overwhelming sense of being watched from the tree line. Witnesses report seeing shadow figures darting between trees near the memorial markers, vanishing when observed directly. Faint, unexplained noises, such as rhythmic rowing or muffled groans, are said to drift across the water from the direction of Melville Island. These disturbances are often attributed to the lingering energy of those who perished in captivity, forever tethered to the spot where their journeys ended in tragedy. Today, the location is preserved as Dead Man's Island Park, a solemn site for the casualties of war. The atmosphere remains heavy, a contrast to the surrounding residential neighborhood. A memorial plaque honors the American prisoners, finally acknowledging those silenced by illness. As fog rolls off the Halifax harbor, the boundary between the living and the dead feels thin, reminding visitors that history is etched into the earth. It stands as a chilling testament to the human cost of conflict, where the echoes of the past continue to resonate through the silent shadows of the Northwest Arm. Isle of the Dead, Port Arthur, Tasmania, Australia. Located off Tasmania's Tasman Peninsula, this 2-hectare outcrop served as the primary cemetery for the Port Arthur Penal Colony. Between 1833 and 1877, this site, originally known as Opossum Island, received the remains of over 100 individuals. The land was strictly divided by social hierarchy. The higher ground was reserved for free settlers and military personnel and marked by headstones, while the lower ground became the mass burial site for convicts in unmarked graves. This segregation in death highlights the brutal 19th century convict system, creating a somber atmosphere that still lingers over the rocky shores and scrubland today. The folklore surrounding the island is as heavy as the iron chains once worn by its inhabitants. Legends speak of restless spirits unable to find peace due to the anonymity of their burials and the suffering they endured in life. While many remain nameless shadows, accounts frequently mention the Blue Man, a a spectral form often seen flickering near the water's edge. The island's reputation is rooted in the immense volume of human tragedy concentrated in such a small space. It is widely regarded as one of Australia's most haunted locations, where the veil between worlds feels thin. Fueled by the 1,000 souls interred in the shallow soil, visitors and investigators report various unexplained phenomena that defy rational explanation. Common accounts include sudden, localized temperature drops and the persistent sensation of being watched from the thickets. Auditory anomalies are particularly prevalent. Witnesses describe hearing phantom clinking leg irons, muffled whispers in the wind, and the sound of distant rowing where no boats exist. Shadow figures are often spotted in the periphery, darting between the weathered tombstones of the free settlers. Physical interactions, such as tugs on clothing or cold brushes against skin, are also documented. These consistent reports suggest the island's former residents have never truly departed. Today, the site is a protected part of the Port Arthur Historic Site, a UNESCO World Heritage location, accessible only by boat. It remains a place of profound silence, broken only by the lapping of the Tasman Sea. The juxtaposition of natural beauty and dark legacy creates a melancholic aura. As the sun sets, the island transforms into a silhouette of memory, standing as a monument to the lives that ended on these isolated shores. It remains a cornerstone of Australian paranormal research, proving that history is felt in the cold air and heavy silence of this haunted ground. Akdamar Island, Lake Van, Turkey. Situated within the saline waters of Lake Van in eastern Turkey, this small island holds a history that dates back over a millennium. Between 915 and 921 AD, King Gagik I Artsruni of the Kingdom of Vaspurakan commissioned the architect Manuel to construct the Cathedral of the Holy Cross. This architectural marvel, adorned with intricate stone reliefs depicting biblical scenes, served as a royal settlement and later became the seat of the Armenian Apostolic Catholicosate of Akdamar. For centuries, the monastery complex remained a center of spiritual life. Though today, only the church and scattered ruins of the palace and monastic cells remain as silent witnesses to the island's former grandeur. The island's name is inextricably linked to a tragic local folklore that has been passed down through generations. According to the legend, a beautiful princess named Tamara resided on the island and fell in love with a commoner from the mainland. Every night, the young man would swim across the vast lake, guided by a flickering lantern held by Tamara. However, the princess's father eventually discovered their secret meetings. In a fit of rage, he destroyed the light, leaving the swimmer lost in the dark, turbulent waters. As he drowned, his final, desperate cry of "Ax, Tamar, oh, Tamar," echoed across the waves, giving the island its name and a legacy of heartbreak. Visitors and locals often associate the tragic legend with various anomalies reported around the island's perimeter. Many claim to see a faint, unexplained light flickering near the rocky shore on moonless nights, mirroring Tamara's guiding lantern. Others describe hearing a mournful, disembodied cry carried by the wind over the salt lake, repeating the name that gave the island its title. Witnesses have reported sudden, localized temperature drops near the church's exterior walls and a profound sense of sorrow that permeates the air around the ancient ruins. These reports of auditory phenomena and spectral lights continue to draw those seeking to verify if the echoes of the lost lover still haunt the shore. Today, the site stands as a meticulously restored museum, following a major renovation project by the Turkish government between 2005 and 2007. While it is no longer a permanent residence for clergy, the Cathedral of the Holy Cross occasionally hosts religious services, bridging the gap between its sacred past and its current role as a historical landmark. Accessible only by boat, the island remains a place of haunting beauty, where the intricate stone carvings watch over the deep blue waters. Whether viewed as a testament to medieval Armenian architecture or as a place of eternal longing, the island remains a captivating enigma in the heart of Anatolia. Sable Island, Nova Scotia, Canada. Emerging from the churning gray swells of the North Atlantic, roughly 300 kilometers southeast of Halifax, Nova Scotia, lies a narrow, crescent-shaped sandbar that has earned the grim title of the Graveyard of the Atlantic. This is a place of shifting dunes and treacherous currents where the cold Labrador Current meets the warm Gulf Stream, creating a permanent shroud of thick fog. Historically, its existence was first documented in the early 16th century, though it likely claimed victims long before records began, since 1583, when the HMS Delight ran aground. More than 350 shipwrecks have been swallowed by its hungry sands. In 1801, the Nova Scotia government established a permanent life-saving station there to assist those stranded on its desolate shores. Marking a human effort to combat the island's natural lethality, the local folklore is as dense as the fog that clings to the dunes. Centered primarily on the spirits of those who never escaped the island's clutches, the most enduring legend involves the ghost of a woman known as Mrs. Copeland, who perished in an 18th century shipwreck. According to local lore, she was washed ashore but was brutally murdered by a wrecker who cut off her finger to steal a ring. It is said that her pale spirit still wanders the shoreline, searching for the man who took her life. Other legends speak of anonymous sailors from centuries past, their faces glimpsed briefly through the sea spray, eternally reenacting their final, desperate moments against the relentless tide and shifting sands. Witnesses and researchers have reported a variety of chilling anomalies that defy explanation in this isolated environment. Beyond the natural whistling of the wind, visitors often describe hearing disembodied screams and the rhythmic clanking of phantom chains drifting across the sand. Shadowy figures are frequently spotted standing atop the high dunes, only to vanish into thin air when approached. Sudden, localized temperature drops occur even in the height of summer, and many have reported the sensation of being watched by unseen eyes from the tall grass. These sightings are often accompanied by phantom lights, spectral lanterns that appear out at sea where no vessels are currently navigating, mimicking the deceptive signals once used by wreckers. Today, this desolate strip of land remains a protected national park reserve under Parks Canada, serving as a sanctuary for the famous wild horses that have roamed the dunes since the 18th century. Access is strictly controlled, ensuring that the environment remains largely untouched by modern development. Manariki Island, Mamanuca Islands, Fiji. Manariki is a tiny, volcanic outcropping nestled within the Mamanuca Islands of Fiji, located off the coast of Viti Levu, spanning about 100 acres. This uninhabited islet is a rugged landscape defined by steep cliffs and shimmering white sand. Historically, the island is the ancestral property of the Matakali Navatalevu people from the nearby Yanuya village. While it remained largely untouched for centuries, it achieved global fame in the late 1990s as the primary filming location for the movie Cast Away. Despite its cinematic notoriety, the island's true history is rooted in its role as a sanctuary for the endangered Fijian crested iguana and endemic plants like the pandanus. It serves as a stark testament to the isolation of the South Pacific, standing as a silent sentinel in the vast turquoise waters. Local folklore surrounding this isolated land is deeply intertwined with the spiritual beliefs of the Yanuya villagers. In Fijian culture, uninhabited islands like this are often regarded with reverence, frequently viewed as the domain of ancestral spirits. While no specific named entity is documented in the historical record, the island is considered sacred, requiring visitors to respect the natural order or risk the displeasure of the unseen. The legend is one of profound loneliness and the overwhelming power of the sea, a place where the barrier between the physical world and the spirit realm feels remarkably thin. The silence here is not merely an absence of sound, but a heavy, watchful presence that locals have acknowledged for generations. Visitors and researchers staying on the island report sensory anomalies that defy easy explanation. Many describe an overwhelming sensation of being watched from the dense brush, a feeling that persists even in the bright sun. Unexplained noises, such as rustling through the undergrowth when no animals are present, are frequently cited. Some claim to hear faint, rhythmic sounds or voices echoing off the volcanic rocks, though the nearest settlement is miles away across the ocean. These reports contribute to the island's reputation as a place where the echoes of the past remain vibrant, perhaps amplified by the rugged, lonely terrain that challenges the human psyche and creates a sense of lingering observation. Today, the island remains an uninhabited protected area, managed by the National Trust of Fiji and local landholders to preserve its unique biodiversity. It is a site of ecological restoration where native flora and fauna reclaim their territory for the tourists allowed to visit. The atmosphere is one of haunting beauty and profound isolation. It stands as a reminder of the raw power of nature and the enduring mysteries of the South Pacific. Ross Island, South Andaman District, India. The Andaman Islands hold a silent sentinel near Port Blair, once hailed as the Paris of the East. In 1858, the British established Ross Island as the administrative center of their penal settlement following the Indian Rebellion. For 80 years, this tiny landmass housed the elite colonial hierarchy, featuring a grand ballroom, a printing press, and a lavish chief commissioner's residence. It was a bubble of luxury built atop the brutal reality of a high-security prison colony. The island's fate turned when the Japanese occupied it in 1942, leaving behind concrete bunkers that still scar the landscape. Following a 1941 earthquake and the eventual relocation of the administration, the site was abandoned, allowing the jungle to swallow the Victorian architecture in a grip of roots. The legends surrounding this site are rooted in its transition from a colonial paradise to a derelict wasteland. While no named spirits dominate the documented lore, the collective memory of thousands of convicts who perished from disease and exhaustion lingers heavily. Locals often call it the Ghost Island, a title earned by the heavy, sorrowful atmosphere of its history. There are whispers of British officers who never truly left their posts, their presence bound to the crumbling Anglican church or the decaying troop barracks. Folklore suggests the island serves as a temporal bridge where the echoes of colonial balls and the silent suffering of prisoners remain etched into the environment. The encroaching ficus trees are viewed by many as physical manifestations of the island's refusal to let go. Paranormal reports focus on auditory anomalies and physical sensations experienced among the ruins. Witnesses describe phantom footsteps echoing on the stone floors of the deserted hospital, or faint disjointed music drifting from the site of the former ballroom. Sudden, localized temperature drops are frequently noted within the darkened bunkers left by Japanese forces. Investigators often experience an oppressive stillness broken by the sight of shadows moving where no tourists stand. These shadow figures are most commonly reported near the old cemetery, where weathered headstones mark the final resting places of those who died in isolation. The visual contrast of modern deer roaming through skeletal ruins adds a surreal layer to these claims. As the line between the natural and the supernatural becomes increasingly blurred. Today, Ross Island, officially renamed Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose Island, stands as a haunting museum under the stewardship of the Indian Navy. It is a place where history is being crushed by the forest, creating an atmosphere both serene and deeply unsettling. 15. Bannerman Island, Poveglia Island, New York, USA. Located in the heart of the Hudson Highlands in New York, Poveglia Island carries a history defined by architectural ambition and military surplus. In 1900, Francis Bannerman VI, a munitions dealer, purchased the land to serve as a storehouse for weapons acquired after the Spanish-American War. Construction began in 1901, with Bannerman designing the elaborate Scottish-style castle structures and a summer residence. For decades, the site functioned as a private arsenal, its walls inscribed with advertisements for the family business, making it a permanent landmark for travelers navigating the Hudson River between Beacon and Cold Spring. Long before the stone towers rose, the island was steeped in folklore that discouraged many from setting foot on its rocky soil. Local indigenous tribes reportedly avoided the land, believing it was inhabited by powerful manatus or spirits that controlled the weather. Early Dutch settlers added to the mythology, claiming the island was a sanctuary for goblins and the restless Heer of Donderberg, a supernatural figure said to stir up violent storms. The name Polypel is tied to legends ranging from a girl named Polly Pell to the Dutch word for ladle, yet the aura of ancient dread has persisted through the centuries. Paranormal activity reported by explorers centers on the residual energy of the island's turbulent past. Visitors have documented localized temperature drops and the sound of heavy, unseen footsteps echoing through the hollowed-out ruins. Shadowy figures are frequently sighted darting between the skeletal remains of the warehouse, which was devastated by a massive explosion of 200 tons of shells in 1920. Since that catastrophe, followed by a ferry sinking in 1950 and a fire in 1969, witnesses claim to feel a heavy, watchful presence near the crumbling arsenal walls, suggesting the spirits of the past remain tethered to the site. Today, the site is managed by the New York State Office of Parks alongside the Bannerman Castle Trust. Though the main arsenal collapsed further in 2009, the ruins remain a haunting monument to industrial ruin. Accessible only via guided tours, the atmosphere remains thick with a sense of isolation as the crumbling battlements continue to guard the Hudson, serving as a silent witness to a century of fire and explosion. This decaying fortress stands as a testament to one man's ambition and the enduring legends of the spirits that reportedly dwell within its stone. Beyond the waves, some secrets are best left buried. Which of these cursed shores chilled you the most? If you survived this countdown, hit that like button and subscribe for more nightmare fuel. Stay tuned next time. We're stepping inside the world's most possessed asylums. See you in the shadows. If you dare,